Welcome back. We're going to finish up the Cool Release exterior oils. And in this little block of video, we're going to cover Palmarosa, Peppermint, Ravensair, Rosalina, and Tea Tree. So, Palmarosa. And Palmarosa is, scoot out of the way a little bit here. Top note. Hope you can see that. It's a grass. Cooling. And goes to lung, liver. 6 to 8% dilution. No contraindications. Antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, antipyretic, analgesic. Good for neurological conditions like sciatica and facial neuralgia. Trigeminal neuralgia, facial neuralgia. Neuralgia is so painful and crazy making for people, so it's good to have some tools to work with that. Okay. Categories. Release, exterior, wind heat, clear fire toxins, and regulate chi. So, kind of a cool thing about Palmarosa, it's a grass. It's a fast growing grass. And it grows in hot places. It grows in Africa and India and Madagascar, Brazil. And the thing that it's really best for is fast moving, way level heat, like epidemic. Something that's racing through a population and is hot and moving fast. So it releases wind heat, really good specifically at sort of epidemic, fast moving, way level heat. Regulates liver chi and clears damp heat, fire toxins on the skin. So it can also have that, like we said, way level, fast moving heat that can be on the skin as well. So it can be used to prevent epidemic. If there's really something terrible going around, this might be a time when you want to fumigate and diffuse the space and treat everybody that's in the space to keep them from getting this. Maybe in a treatment room, after somebody who was really sick was in there, or the clinic at large, or in your home. Anyway, this is a great oil for that. It mixes well with citrus, floral, and wood oils. It can be used in pregnancy, and it is safe on the skin. So for something that clears so much heat and is such a strong, effective oil, you might be nervous about using it in pregnancy, but it can be used in pregnancy, and it is safe on the skin. It is great for nerve pain, especially nerve pain that's from a virus. So that would be like shingles. Great for that. If facial neuralgia came on due to a viral infection, or meningitis from a viral infection, Palmarosa, it's a really good one. It is good for use with skin cancer and gangrene. Again, that toxic heat and the skin level. And then, okay, upper body has an affinity for the upper body, eyes, ears, nose, and head. And then on the deeper level, it can allow someone to center themselves. It can allow somebody to accept change. Change can often feel like an epidemic running through your life and taking charge, and this can help you to accept change, accept loss. And it's good for people that spend a lot of time talking to themselves and sort of rehearsing how they're going to interact with the world around them. Good for people like that. Okay, and then we're going to move on to another really common, widely used oil, peppermint. Peppermint. Mentha piperita. It's a top mid note. Leaves are the parts distilled. It's cooling. It's another lung, liver oil. Especially strong on the wood. Strong to make change and make quick change. It is a 2 to 8% dilution. There's no contraindications, but there is a caution for kids, especially small children, babies, toddlers. Okay, so those are the basics on peppermint. They're in your book, or you can pause and write these things down. Categories: cool, release, exterior, regulate chi, open portals. So to some degree, all essential oils open the portals. Peppermint really opens the portals. You know, all you have to do is hold a little bit up towards your face, and you can feel it in your eyes, you can feel it in your nose, you can feel it in your mouth. So it's really strong for that. And peppermint, very strong on wind. So peppermint's another one that dominates the blend. So need to keep that in mind. And it opens all the portals, not just the upper portals, the lower portals as well. And let's see here, if we get down into actions, we've got anti-inflammatory, sedative, hepatoregenerative, antispasmodic, that's again that wind here. The functions: clears wind heat, headache, fever, nasal congestion, dry cough, sore eyes, sore throat. Important thing of note here, you know, I talked about peppermint being really commonly used, and that is true. And it is often thought of as a headache oil. And if their headache has to do with cold and stagnation of cold, peppermint's going to feel awful. And peppermint's going to make their headache a lot worse. So I know what kind of headache you're working with. Always know what kind of headache you're working with. But as an offhand, oh, you have a headache, try peppermint oil. I wouldn't do it unless you know specifically that person's dealing with heat. It's strong to regulate liver chi, can promote menstruation, relax the emotions, good for PMS, hepatitis, cirrhosis, strong effect on the liver. And here we've got a little asterisk function here to relieve itch and open the portals. It can improve concentration, it can treat shock and fainting, and along with the idea of opening the portals, peppermint can allow you to have vision. It can allow us to see the possibility for change. And it also promotes Wei defensive chi movement, so that can help with muscular and digestive spasms, dyspepsia, nausea, and flatulence. Let's see. Then this is a good one to do that steam diffusion that we talked about. Something to note with peppermint is that it's not for a spasmodic cough, that kind of coughing that you just can't stop once you start. So that's good to know before you think of using it for that. Jeffrey Yuen carries peppermint with him when he travels. There's lots of wind that happens in travel, and sniffing peppermint oil throughout can help to soothe some of that reaction to the wind. If movement will help, use peppermint oil. If movement will not be helpful in a particular situation, avoid peppermint oil, because it is going to create change. It is going to create movement. Regulates Wei Qi and promotes the movement of Wei Qi. Let's see. Any acute condition with wind, be it emotional or physical, peppermint can be helpful for. So I'll say that again. Peppermint can be helpful for any acute condition with wind, be it emotional or physical. It can be used for visionary inspiration, new ideas, and to help someone to take action on those ideas. It can open the mind as it opens the orifices to see and hear newness and sense newness. So that's peppermint. And then we're going to move on to Ravensair. And I'll write it how it's written in the Materia Medica, but I'll also write it how you're likely to find it when you're shopping for essential oils. Okay, so that's how it's written in our Materia Medica, and that's how you might find it when you're out and about sourcing oils, Ravensara. Jeffrey will always talk about it as Ravensair, and you'll often also find it as Ravensara. And when in doubt, when you see name differences like that, there's at least one more in our Materia Medica that we're going to cover. What you're comparing and looking to be sure that you find is this botanical name right here. Okay, it is a mid-note, middle note. Leaves are the part that is distilled. It's cooling. We've got lung and liver affiliation, working with Wei Qi. 6 to 10% dilution. And no contraindications. It's a strong antiviral. Where's the best place to write that? So that's a good thing to make a note of. It's a strong antiviral. Clears wind heat, in particular lung heat. It relieves muscular fatigue and weakness. That's its second function listed in the Materia Medica. I use it primarily for clearing lung heat. And so that reminds me of the categories. So we've got cool, release, exterior, and clear heat, primarily lung. Let's see. This is another one that can be used on herpes zoster. Good for acute stage of the flu with a lot of lung heat, and also muscle aches and pains. And that's that relieving that muscular congestion. Primarily used for shingles. It's a good Just recently dispensed it in a formula for 2 people dealing with shingles. Really helpful. And then, let's see. It's good for heat burning up the qi, causing wei atrophy, and heat consuming the qi, exhaustion, and that can be the case with eczema. Heat consuming the qi, burning up the qi. Let's see. And good for people with a lot of self-criticism, which Jeffrey Yuen often talks about as an illness of our culture. So self-criticism is a form of lung heat, especially if directed at others, lots of talking going on around it. So another deeper use of a time when you might think to use Ravensara. Next up, we've got Rosalina. Rosalina. We've got another Melaleuca here with Rosalina. So we have that same contraindication of not using it for an acute attack, histamine attack, but wonderful, wonderful oil. It is a top note. This is the leaves and the twigs. It's cooling. Affinity for the lung and stomach. 8% dilution. No contraindications aside from the one I just mentioned of not for a current asthma or histamine attack, and that goes for all the Melaleucas. Cajeput, tea tree, Niaouli, Rosalina. And it has one category, and that is cool, release the exterior, though it does have an affinity, and we'll talk about this when we get into the 8 extras for the Yang Wei Mai. Rosalina is an ENT emergency oil. Fantastic, excellent, quick acting, great for children with ear, nose, and throat heat conditions. So that brings us down to the functions. The number 1 is clear wind heat, especially ENT conditions. Number 2, clear stomach fire. Again, that channel affinity of lung and stomach. You can apply it to insect bites. You can use it to induce a relaxing and calm environment if there's too much heat. Great for children with acute ear infection. Again, we talked about that external, applying to the external border of the ear. Rosalina is another good one for that. There's also a protocol listed in the Materia Medica for a formula blend for that. It is easily and rapidly absorbed through the skin and through the nose. So quick acting, that's why it is given the name of the ENT emergency oil, because it's going to act quickly. Great for the ear, wonderful affinity for the ear, good for acid reflux. So it's cooling, it's sweet, which calms, and then it's acrid, which ventilates heat. Those things are really good for acid reflux. And it's more relaxing than the other Melaleucas. So Rosalina is the most relaxing of the Melaleucas, and also works very quickly and is super effective. So what a great combination. And it can be a little bit difficult to source. It can be a little hard to find. Sunrose Aromatics does carry Rosalina. And then we've got tea tree. And that's the last one we're going to cover out of the cool release exterior category. mid-note, leaves, distilled, lung and kidney. Oh, it's cooling. And lung and kidney affiliation. I have a little note jotted down here that if you're going to be using it internally, it has an affiliation for the urinary bladder. 4% dilution. And again, no contraindications except for the Melaleuca contraindication of not for a current asthma or allergy or histamine attack. Use in between the attacks only. The safest one for that is Niuli, which we've not covered yet. Okay. And tea tree is another one that's really commonly used, found in lots of products. So it's good to know a little bit more about it and what's being used. Categories, very simple. Just to cool release exterior, clear heat, dry damp, and it's doing that primarily in the lower jiao. Actions, antifungal, that's of note. Tea tree, there's lots of antifungal oils. Tea tree is one that's particularly good at that. Urinary antiseptic, vulnerary and disinfectant. Functions, we've got clear, wind heat and damp heat in the lower heater, candida, thrush. And then its second function is a great function. It strengthens the lung qi, and that it's a fantastic oil for children, and that's part of why it's a really good oil for children. They can always use a boost to lung and spleen qi, in this case lung qi. Let's see. Topical applications, infected wounds, ulcers, herpes, cold sores, acne, diaper rush, athlete's foot, periodontal hygiene, vaginal suppository for candida, so lots of uses. Those are all in dilution. Again, that dilution, so important. It's good for a gargle, for mouth condition or sore throat with salts, like we talked about when we talked about methods of use. It's active for candida. Internally, here I've got a little more explanation of that note with the urinary bladder, but for UTI internally, if that's something you're doing. Again, we're not covering that or advocating it. So tea tree is great for a weak immune system because it strengthens lung qi. It's good for people who feel vulnerable and victimized. It's drying to the mucous membrane. Sometimes we want that, sometimes we don't. So know that and keep it in mind. It's good on burns. It's good for radiation poisoning. Strong affinity for both wind heat in the upper jiao and damp heat in the lower jiao. Good for both those things. Wind heat, upper jiao, damp heat, lower jiao. Can be used in toenail fungus. Toenail fungus is tricky. If you're trying to treat toenail fungus, this would be one of the things you're doing. Yeah, so great oil, good for children, good for releasing the exterior, but also strengthening the lung qi. So not just releasing, but also working at the root a little bit there too. So wonderful oil, and that wraps up cool release exterior oils. And in the next video, we will begin and should be able to get through the warm release exterior individual oils because we are covering 5 of those. So we should be able to get through all that in one video. And as always, let me know if you have any questions, and we'll get to them. Unfortunately, because these things are pre-recorded, I can't really get your feedback on how this is working with the whiteboard, but we can talk about that in person, and I can adjust for future classes if needed. But hopefully it's working okay, and you're getting the information, and yeah, so see you next time with warm release exterior.